Generating traffic and sales can be a challenge for online merchants. But selling on the Walmart Marketplace puts your products in front of millions of customers who shop on Walmart.com. And right now, sellers who join Walmart Marketplace can save up to 50% on referral and fulfillment fees for the first 90 days. So get started today. Head over to marketplace.walmart.com/savings. That's marketplace.walmart.com/savings.
Welcome to a Web Marketing Today podcast. My name is Kerry Murdoch. I'm the new publisher of that website. Web Marketing Today is one of the earliest, if not the earliest, websites devoted to Internet marketing. Its founder, Dr. Ralph Wilson, recently sold the business to our company, Confluence Publishers. I recently asked Dr. Wilson how he came to launch Web Marketing Today in 1995, among other topics. This is that interview. Well, Dr. Wilson, thank you for your time today.
Well, thank you, Kerry.
I'm interested in talking to you. We've worked together for several years, and of course, my company, Confluence Publishers, just acquired Web Marketing Today. Having worked with you, I've come to really respect and admire your abilities and how you lead your life. So my first question for you, sir, is Web Marketing Today. You founded the site that we now own, but you founded that in 1995, and I'm wondering if you can tell us how you came to launch Web Marketing Today.
Well, that was right in the beginning of the commercial internet, which sort of started in 1994, but really hadn't taken off powerfully yet. And I was in the process then of starting a new church in Rockland, California, and the church wasn't going all that well, actually. My background and training is as a pastor, and I've been a pastor now for about 45 years. But things weren't going too well, and within a couple of week period, it became obvious that the church couldn't pay me regularly, and neither could the part-time job I had, writing job, because that periodical had folded, and so I was stuck at 50 years old without a job and trying to find something. But early that year, in January, AOL was giving out 40 free hours of Internet access. So I was excited about that. And I'd been on like CompuServe and some of those networks for a decade previous to that. So I knew something about this online stuff. But I was excited to explore. And when I did, I was really blown away by the communication capability of the Internet. I could see how this could be huge, and this was really before web browsers. Back in January of '95, web browsers started to come in about the middle of that year. But I was just amazed by it, and so by May of 1995, I'd put some of my Christian writings that I'd done up on a website, and I wouldn't want anyone to see that crude, ugly website now, but back then, that's what it was my first attempt, and the graphics were horrible. But at any rate, I got a job that summer making a website for some guy that was selling T-shirts that had kind of aliens on the front, and I kept track of my time carefully to see how long it took me to do these different steps, and then I started looking for other people to do websites for, and I ran across a company that was selling two-way radio antennas, these kind of dome-shaped antennas that send information across freeways, so you don't have to trench there, and it was really a good international kind of a product for the internet, and so I. Here my family is completely broke, and I go into this guy's office, and because he indicated an interest, and I had just about half an hour before finished a spreadsheet on how much I should charge for this. So I go in there and we look at it, and I figured he needs about 43 pages on his website. So I quoted him a price of like $3,500, and which to me was a lot of money. And he looked at me and he said, "Yeah, let's do that." And I'm kind of like, "Yes!"
Yes.
Very quietly. But and that was kind of the beginning of the Internet for me. I started building websites and kind of got discovered by a 3 or 4 line thing in a national publication in November of that year. And I got all the business I could handle from that time. And I thank God for it, because it was a real provision for my family.
What was that national publication?
I was at some AT&T publication.
Yeah.
And
so did you have children at home at the time?
I had a daughter at home at the time, and who was in high school. And so in November of 1995, I realized I need some way to kind of nurture these potential clients before they're ready to actually purchase a website from me. And the gestation period on something like that, 6 weeks or something at least. So I started Web Marketing Today. I didn't want to tell them how to make a website. I wanted to sell them that, but I decided I'll tell them how to market their website. Well, I looked all over the Internet and found about 20 articles, which was the sum total of wisdom in the world about Internet marketing that was online, and put links to them all on one page on my website. And then I wrote every week or two a newsletter called Web Marketing Today. That's what I named it in the beginning. Designed mainly for these clients. It started out with maybe 250 people, and then grew rapidly to several thousand. But at that point, there weren't really that much information about Internet marketing out there. I think the only other publication that survives today was Web Digest for Marketers that Larry Chase publishes. And his was really a different approach. Mine was a kind of a how-to-do-it approach. And so I would, who knew how to market on the Internet? But I would scour everything I could read, and then, just figure out, how do I help my clients, my now website, small businesses, how do I help them market? And then I would write about it. And so it was kind of a learning process all the way along. I think at that point in time, I had a degree in biology and 2 degrees in theology, but nothing in marketing, though as a pastor I had done marketing for all of my career. Not Internet marketing, obviously. So I think at that point, not having a formal education in marketing was an advantage, because all the marketers, people with marketing education, they were trying to make the Internet fit into their categories. And I had the luxury of not having to force it into something it didn't fit in, but kind of figure it out from the ground up. Probably within 3 years, it would have been an advantage to have a marketing degree, but I think in those early days, it was an advantage not to. And I really think God put me at the right place in the right time.
Who thought of what?
Those were fun days.
That's interesting. Who thought of the name? Was that your name?
That was me. Yeah.
So what did you publish the site on at the time? Do you remember?
Well, it was a web hosting platform, and I used just HTML pages. Back in those days, there were the beginnings of content management systems, but they really, literally cost $500,000.
Wow.
And so, I just put up web pages. You create kind of a little template and stick your content in the middle. And then in 1997, I discovered something called server-side includes, where you could include files into different points in your document and then build a document from all those separate files. And that saves a huge amount of time, of course, in editing. But in the old days, it was just, one page at a time. And then published it by email.
So were you also pastoring your church there that you had started in Rockland? Were you also pastoring that too?
Yes, I was.
Yeah.
I pastored that church until about 2001. But it was not at that point something that I could put full time into, basically, because I needed to support my family. So you do what you can, and give some time to the church and then some time to earn a living.
So, in 1995, Dr. Wilson, I was sort of vaguely familiar with the Internet. You were making a living off of it already, and had launched Web Marketing Today. Were you always interested in technology? I mean, have you always been interested in computers? How did that come to be that you just sort of gravitated toward that?
Well, I've been interested both in writing and in computers for a long time. When I was a pastor down in Southern California, I finagled our church into buying one of the first desktop computers available, which was at that point was CPM, was the operating system, and then that one got stolen out of the church office, and we got an IBM PC glad because everything was then built on that kind of platform as far as software, business software. But so I've had an interest in technology. I'm not a trained programmer or anything like that, but I sort of tinker with stuff. I like to get my hands on it and figure out what makes it work.
When was that? The computer that you just mentioned, CPM, I think you called it.
That was probably 1982 or 3, I'm guessing, because I remember writing a doctoral dissertation on it in 1984, early 1984.
So in 95, you were busy making a living, supporting your family. Did you reflect on what the web would ultimately become? Did you think at the time, this is going to change the world?
Yes, I did actually. As I mentioned, I could see some of the communication power of the internet, and one of the early things I did, and was one of my early interests, was online stores. In December of 1995, I built my first online store, which was a coffee store that had previously been on CompuServe only, and now we built an internet site for it. So I started working with shopping carts and all that kind of thing. And I remember thinking back in those days that at some point in time, we're probably going to see 20% of the goods that are sold, consumer goods sold in this country, be sold on the internet. I don't know if we're quite there yet, but I fully expect that's going to happen. And it's created this huge revolution. It's interesting how technology comes in and then wipes out a whole other technology like print newspapers are now severely suffering. And Blockbuster is closing stores because there's new ways to deliver video. And this is just one of those revolutions. And I really believe that it was very much a revolution that has changed the world.
Is it a good change?
Good and bad. I mean, I think with any technology, there are good uses of it and there are exploitive uses of it. But yeah, I think it can bring good to a lot of people. One thing it's done is it's created for millions of small businesses a way to earn a living without a huge investment. To set up a small business without a huge investment. And I think that's been a great blessing to millions of families.
During your tenure there at Web Marketing Today, I think it was the better part of 17 years, if I added that up correctly.
Almost 17.
Almost, yeah. You were obviously a pioneer. You were way ahead of most of us, and what you were doing online. Looking back over your tenure, of course, you received many awards and recognitions during that time. What are some memorable high points and low points over those 17 years?
Well, I can remember one of the high points was back in 1998, 99, and 2000. There was a huge amount of money being poured into the internet. There were all these startups that were trying to get started, and they didn't have any revenue coming in, but they had all these great dreams. And one of the things that amazed me at that point was I started selling advertising for Web Marketing Today because people would come to me. I never really went out and solicited advertising, but they came to me because it was a vehicle that was available and had a lot of readers. I probably had 80,000, 100,000 readers by that time.
Wow.
And so
it's amazing.
I remember I was selling advertising as fast as I could, and in 2000 I started another publication called Dr. eBiz, which was kind of a question and answer thing for small businesses, and for everything I could publish, I could fill with advertising, and it was that, and they were coming to me, and it was one of those wonderful times.
Wow.
And then in August of 2000, it all stopped. The bubble had burst, and if you remember the stock market plummeting at that point, and all the money for advertising for all these startup internet businesses just dried up suddenly.
Wow.
And I was very fortunate. I had started in 1997 a pay publication called, at that point it was called Web Commerce Today. And so my income was wonderfully supplemented by advertising in some of those years, but when the bottom fell out, I didn't have just a single revenue source as far as my business plan was diversified, and I'm very thankful now that it was, because if it hadn't been, I would have been dead. But so I had income from selling subscriptions to Web Commerce Today at that point. So I guess that was a high point and kind of a shock. Some of the fun of it was traveling. There just weren't that many people out there that could speak about the internet, and so I got invited to Israel in 1997 and Cologne, Germany in 1998, and then a number of invitations that I turned down just because you can't run a business and run around the world, even though it's exhilarating. But it was really fun, and it was amazing to me that I could run a national business, or actually an international business in some ways, from my home in rural Loomis, California. One of the interesting episodes of that was I got a call. I don't know when this was, maybe 1997 or something like that. I got a call from some guy in San Francisco. I'm about 120 miles from San Francisco, I guess. And he said, we've got 50 Japanese businessmen that are here, and they want to learn about the internet, and we wondered if we could come up there and see the world headquarters of Wilson Internet Services. And I demurred and said, well, it's really quite a ways, but thank you anyway. And then I went into the kitchen and said to my wife, Jean, there are 50 Japanese businessmen that want to visit the world headquarters of Wilson Internet Services. And she said, they're coming here? We still tell the story. But it gives you just an idea of, I mean, even the idea that world headquarters, on the internet, if you do a good job, you can appear a whole lot larger than you really are.
Of course, yeah.
Which really, for a number of years, leveled the playing field between huge businesses that hadn't got it yet and small businesses that really were working hard to get it. I think that's shifted now, but back in those days, that was a kick.
So during those years, you were so far in front of the rest of us, most of us anyway, certainly me. So people would say, Dr. Wilson, what do you do for a living? What would you tell them, and would they understand?
Well, I would tell them that I wear two hats. I'm a pastor, and I run an internet marketing business. And back in, I guess it was 1998, I stopped doing small business websites just because I didn't have time to take care of the customers the way I really feel customers need to be taken care of, and write and develop web marketing today, which was just exploding at that point. But I was wearing two hats and have for a long time, and kind of enjoy it.
Changing gears just for a sec, I believe you and I met first in 2008. I think I've got my dates correct there. Of course, our company represented your company on advertising matters for a while, and it was after a year or so, sir, that we first met, that it dawned on me this other part of your life, that I realized everything you were doing. I was sort of amazed that you kept up with everything you were doing with web marketing today, but that was only part of what you did. The other part was your pastoring work and your writing work, and it's really astonishing your level of productivity. How many books related to your religious work, your spiritual work, how many books have you written?
Well, let me kind of preface that by explaining one of the things that got me really excited when I started to understand what the Internet could do in 1995 was that it could be used to teach the Christian faith. And as I mentioned, I've been a pastor since, 1967 at one level or another. And my strongest gift is in teaching. So I was really excited about that. And then in 1996, I really felt like God was calling me to, one, figure out how to teach the Bible on the Internet, and secondly, then teach other people how to do it. So I started out with chat rooms, trying to do a 1-hour Bible study in a chat room. Everyone was typing in stuff, and I was copying and pasting from something I had previously typed, and I decided, no, this is not it. But I ended up with a kind of a format of sending out a lesson each week using an autoresponder system, and then following it up each day with the discussion questions, and then setting up an online forum that people could use to respond to the questions. And I would have, and still have, I'm doing this to this day, somewhere 3,000 to 5,000, 6,000 people would sign up for one of these Bible studies at a time. And then anybody can sign up after that forever, we hope, and just with the autoresponder system. So these Bible studies then turned into books, and so I would probably write 3 of those a year. And currently, I am writing my 30th book in that field. They originally were email Bible studies and on the web, but in the last couple of years, I've turned most of them into paperbacks using print on demand, as well as Kindle and PDF. So that's a big part of my life, and from which I derive a great deal of satisfaction, because I enjoy the research and the writing, and also the people that I'm in touch with all over the world as a result of that. About a third of the people that are involved in those Bible studies are from outside the U.S.
So that's 30 books. How many of those are still available?
All of them.
Yeah. Wow. Where are they available?
Almost all of them are available on Amazon.
On Amazon. Yeah. What about ebooks? Web marketing today. You've written a lot of technology, internet marketing ebooks.
There wasn't really that much out there back in the early days, and I mentioned that I was interested in e-commerce. So one of the early books that I did was called the Shopping Cart Report, and went through a couple of editions. The second edition, I think, had 800 pages, partly because I was crazy enough to try to give data on the 200 or 300 different shopping cart programs that were available at the time, and get reader feedback on as many as I could, and then publish it. So that was one of the early books. I've wanted to revise that different times, but it's just a massive job, and I've sort of quailed in fear and never really tackled it again. And I published a book called the Email Marketing Handbook, which was, I think, had a section about all of the different email programs that were available at the time. I think that went about 700 pages. Most of the ebooks that I published in the internet marketing field were someplace between 25 and 150 pages. In 2001, all those were self-published and then sold on my website. I did write and publish one book through Wiley & Sons in 2001 called Planning Your Internet Marketing Strategy. But I got a little bit frustrated with the whole process of publishing a book through a major publisher because it's slow, and the internet information at that point was just burgeoning. But it takes 6 months or something like that from the time you turn in the manuscript to get it published. So I could see that ebooks were the way to go as far as to get information out there and to earn a living. I sold a lot of books. So I think I counted about 19 ebooks and books that I wrote and published during that time.
Any guess on number of articles you wrote over the years for Web Marketing Today?
I would guess around 1,500, but I'm not sure.
Well, that would certainly, at least that looks to me like. So that's 30 books on your pastoring work, 19 serious technology ebooks, and roughly 1,500 articles. Does it make you tired when I read that?
I look back and I say, how did I ever do that?
Right.
I do know that I had to live a very disciplined life to pull that off.
That is amazing. That is simply amazing. Changing gears, sir, what's the future for printed books, in your view?
Get out my crystal ball, which is somehow faded and not quite clear. Well, I think that we're seeing right now, in the last 2 years, a strong move toward ebooks that are read on, for instance, Kindle. I had published PDF ebooks that are published in a PDF format since maybe 2002 or something like that. So, that technology has been around a while, and there are a lot of people, everybody with a computer can access a PDF book. But I think there's been a huge change of what used to be all printed books that have now turned to Kindle. I think that Kindle is probably going to become the format of choice, even though it may not be the best format. I think EPUB is probably the best format, but I think Kindle's going to overtake them just because of Amazon's marketing power. And I think in the area of publishing, one of the changes that I've really taken advantage of is that instead of having to publish a book, you can self-publish. Whereas before you'd have to publish through some major publisher or a vanity publisher. People can now self-publish through CreateSpace, which is an Amazon-owned company, and basically publish their own paperback on a print-on-demand basis. That is, when an order comes into it, it gets printed, rather than having a garage full of cases of books that you never sell. So it solves part of the financial problem. Basically, I can publish a book now in paperback format. If I do all the work myself, my out-of-pocket expense is going to be somewhere, $150, $160. Part of that for the copyright, for the ISBN number, and then the rest of that for various kind of initial setup fees. And then for $12 a year, I can keep it in print indefinitely. So that kind of stuff, I think, is changing the whole face of publishing as far as the print publishing. And a lot of major publishers are using that in order to keep older books in print. But as far as Kindle books and books that can be read on various pads that are out there, iPads and Android and all that, I think we're really seeing a revolution. I know Amazon announced a year ago that they were selling more Kindle books than they were paperbacks, I believe, which I thought was astounding.
Yeah.
Most of my religious books now are published in three formats: paperback, three for sale formats: paperback, Kindle, and PDF. And I think right now Kindle is outselling both of the other formats, which is really, we're seeing a real revolution right here as far as publishing.
Yeah. What's the future for Dr. Wilson? You have got so many things going on. Web marketing today. You've sold to our company. So in your, what are you, sir? 60?
67.
67. You're a very young 67. What's the?
Well, currently I'm the interim pastor at First Baptist Church of Nevada City. I expect to be there a few more months until they find a regular pastor. And I'm engaged in writing, as I mentioned, my 30th book, which is on the life of David, and it'll be a 12 lessons in that study that I will put out on the internet for people to subscribe to and take as an online course in September. And after that, I don't know. I like to stay busy, and God's given me health, and I thank God for that. So as long as I have health and strength, I'm going to enjoy doing things. The one thing I have enjoyed is a little bit more time to slow down the pace and enjoy life a little bit more. So we'll see, but I'll keep busy.
We'll enjoy following what you're doing and certainly continuing our dialogue with you. Final thoughts, sir, on the audience that's listening to this. Final thoughts on web marketing today, on plans that you have, anything else on your mind?
Well, I'm excited for web marketing today. It's been just over 2 months since your company acquired it. Mm-hmm. And what I've seen is, one, you've moved it to a new platform. You have increased the content. You've at least doubled and are moving towards tripling the amount of content that's being published each week. And I think that's exciting because web marketing today is getting some fresh breath of fresh air, and you're broadening the number of people who are writing for it. I think it has a great life ahead of it, and I'm excited that it's having this kind of future. And I really think that internet marketing has become, in the last 17 years that I've been in this field, as one of now kind of mainstream marketing approaches. And web marketing today, I hope, will continue to move small businesses in that direction.
That's certainly our intention, and it is an honor to assume the publication that you founded and to be associated with such an honorable man. So we feel very fortunate in that respect. There are 3 websites that we've alluded to here before we wrap up that you're involved with. Could you tell our audience the URLs of those 3 websites just so they can keep up with Dr. Wilson?
All right. Well, the website that has some of the history of web marketing today is now called drebiz.com, doctorEbiz.com. Mm-hmm. And then I have 2 religious websites, one which has articles and quite a bit of stuff about Easter and Christmas holidays, is called joyfulheart.com. And then all my Bible studies are on a website known as jesuswalk.com.
Okay. Well, Dr. Ralph Wilson, the founder of Web Marketing Today, an innovator in many aspects of web marketing, we want to thank you for everything you've done for us, sir, and we want to thank you for your time today in this interview.
Well, thank you, Kerry. God bless you.